The lecture hall aboard the Galactic University's central orbiting campus buzzed with the murmurs of over 50 species. Tentacled, feathered, scaled, or silicon-based, they all gathered for one of the most anticipated guest seminars in recent history, Deathworlders and the Ethics of War. At the center of the amphitheater floated Professor Zarnix, a respected Zalarian historian with 6 glowing eyes and a voice that resonated in the minds of every student simultaneously. But today he wasn't alone. Beside him stood a solitary figure, 2 meters tall, bipedal, smooth-skinned, yet visibly scarred, unarmored, unarmed, and yet the atmosphere shifted with tension at his presence. "A human," whispered a Mkel hatchling. "I thought they were extinct," said a Jalari scholar. "They're not extinct," muttered a Groth war priest. "Just banned." Zarnix began. "Today, students, we discuss why humanity, despite qualifying as a death world species, has been permanently barred from all forms of sanctioned galactic warfare. To explain this, I present Commander Elijah Ward, retired." Elijah nodded once, stepped forward, and scanned the sea of alien eyes. "I'll keep it simple," he began. "You've all studied our biology, our planet, our history, but none of that tells you the truth. Not really." A student raised a shimmering claw. "Is it because your kind lacks moral restraint?" Elijah smirked. "We've got restraint. Too much of it, sometimes. But that's not the reason." Another spoke up, voice gurgling through water. "Then is it your technology? Too primitive to abide by the rules of engagement?" Elijah laughed. A deep, chilling sound that made the room flinch. "Primitive? Maybe once. But even when we were flinging metal slugs and burning chemical propellants, we won wars against species with orbital superiority. So no, not that either." Zarnix floated silently. He already knew the answer, but tradition demanded the truth come from the source. Elijah's face turned grim. "You want to know the real reason we're banned from galactic war?" The room leaned in. "Because we don't fight to win," he said. "We fight to end you." A hush fell like vacuum silence. "Humans are emotional. You see that as a flaw. But emotions are weapons too, ones you can't predict or quantify. You attack our ships, we rally. You destroy our cities, we unify. But if you kill our children—" His eyes darkened. "That's when humanity stops fighting wars and starts ending civilizations." A hologram flickered to life behind him. Footage from the Loran Purge, a century-old war most species considered a myth. The Loran Confederacy had invaded a human colony, believing them too fragile to resist. They were right at first. What they didn't expect was the response. The humans didn't sue for peace. They didn't send diplomats. They sent burning vengeance, orbital strikes, nanite plagues, gravity warp bombs. By the end, the Loran system was a blackened void, its planets rendered uninhabitable for millennia. "There were children on Loran," a voice dared to protest. Elijah didn't flinch. "There were children on Eden 3. We buried ours. You lost yours. That's the difference." Another student asked, trembling, "But the Galactic Council negotiated peace treaties. Why did you go so far?" "Because treaties don't raise the dead." Professor Zarnix finally spoke. "And that, young scholars, is the essence of humanity's ban. Not because they're unstable, not because they're weak, but because they are the only known species that makes war personal." Elijah nodded. "You wage war for territory, politics, resources. We wage it for revenge, for justice, for something deeper than strategy." A young Lithari, covered in iridescent scales, whispered, "So, if humanity were ever allowed back into war," Elijah finished the thought for him, "the galaxy wouldn't survive it." After the seminar, silence lingered in the halls. Alien students who had once mocked humanity as emotional primitives now avoided Elijah's gaze. Not out of hatred, but fear and maybe a bit of awe. One brave student approached him, a tiny Avrinian barely the size of a human toddler. "Commander, if humanity is so dangerous, why did you agree to speak here?" Elijah smiled, genuinely this time. Because I wanted you to understand something. What's that? He crouched to her level. We don't want war. Never did. But when you force it on us, when you back us into a corner, what comes out isn't human anymore. He stood and walked away, leaving the student trembling beneath the weight of that truth. And far above the university, in the dark silence of space, a forgotten beacon blinked, marking the coordinates of Eden 3, forever classified and forever burning.